What's up? I've been playing Vanessa quite a bit, and particularly been loving the burn line. One of the angles you can take with it is weather glass, and I did a run today where it turned out to go really, really smoothly. Um, Kind of spoiler alert here, right? But I did end up getting a dragon heart with it, which was really fun to experiment with. But ultimately, I wanted to just kind of screenshot each of the days and kind of see the progression of the build, and hopefully give everyone here a little bit of influence when they're kind of taking this line. So to jump into it, the day one starts pretty simply. I got the aquatic vents early on, which I find to be a very good early game item. It carries you through a lot of the fights. It just stacks burn really, really well. And when you get it, you can kind of fish for a burn skill from the level 2 level up option. So once I have the burn item, you do want other burn items to go with it or just to synergize with it. You can kind of go a bunch of aquatics, or you can kind of find the slow line. And in this game, I did get the shrimp with the bolas and this powder horn reloading it. The pearl here is very mid. It's not very good at all. I just kind of needed to put a slot on the board. But then as we get into the next days, I find a lighter that helps stack the burn. The shovel in here is kind of funny, but it needed to go in. It was just filler. I think one of my options, I took a random skill and got this, which isn't that great. It does a little bit of damage, but it's not super amazing. But did get some loot items, and they gave the burn. They gave the vents an extra burn, and I got 4 regen from it. So this build here is just kind of getting to a completed state. It's not perfect by any means, but it got the job done. So then, as the rug expands, you want to fill in more items, of course. Here, I got 3 burn onto the vents. I think I got a loot item and then the Artisan Dunes event, which also, buffed the lighter. The flaming potion here got from PvE fight, and I felt as though it was better to reload it than the bolas. The bolas would be stacking a shrimp, but it's bronze, whereas the fire or the burn on this potion would just kind of stack up with the vents, and I thought that'd be a better direction. One item I really love early is the life preserver. I find that getting it and upgrading it to the silver state here is, it can carry you through days 3, 4, and 5. They basically have to kill you twice, and if you're burning them down, it doesn't really give them an opportunity to just cheese you out of the fight. It also lets you win PvE fights that you normally wouldn't win, so it does have a little bit of a side benefit. So moving on to the next day here, day 4, we found a weather glass. That kind of makes me mentally think about, okay, I'm moving into weather glass. I kind of want to go all in on it. It's an item where it's extremely powerful in the mid game, and if you are like focusing your entire board to benefit it, then it carries really hard. And one of the ways to benefit the weather glass is enabling its multicast, I mean. So this poison potion here, it's stacking an extra multicast on the weather glass. The lighter is because it's a burn item, and the clam. But also the life preserver is enabling it because this is going to ramp up burn damage and poison damage, which is going to slowly bleed out your opponent. So if you have the chance just to come back with a little bit of life, you can kind of tick them out before they get you. I got an interesting skill choice. Again, not A tier or anything, but the hotspot here, I feel like, with this weather glass pickup, it became very good because effectively what it's doing is it burns 5 every time you use your leftmost item, up to four times, I believe. So here it's actually just adding 5 burn to the weather glass because it'll cast 4 times and trigger all of it right away. So that's 50% more burn, which is actually kind of insane. And then that's it for the day 4 build. Moving on to day 5, the one thing I was able to do was get another Artisan Dunes. I added 2 burn to all my burn items. I spent the gold to up it to the 2 burn instead of the 1 burn, just because I'm getting 4 casts from the weather glass. I'm getting 3 casts from the vents. Also, it's on the lighter, which is kind of nice. So I felt as though it would be really strong to keep the burn stacking, and that's the primary goal of playing burn. Is just the higher the burn number, the better. You just win more fights. Super minor replacement, but I got this catfish instead of that poison potion. I don't think it's relevant, but you know, why not? All right. So day 6, this is where it got a little spicy. So I got rid of the life preserver. I felt like, when you have 1700 health, getting 600 back, it's a third, a little bit more than that. But, days in day 4, your life preserver is more than 50% of your health. But as you go to day 6, it starts losing the percentage of your total health, and it's not as valuable. It did help a lot with killing the lich this day. So killing the lich, obviously gives you a little bit more XP, but it did give me the icicle here, which enables an extra weather glass multicast. So that was an amazing find. It also just slows them down, which is really helpful when you're playing burn and poison. It's a defensive you know item that fills one slot. I remember explaining it to a friend where even if this just freezes a small item, it's one for oneing. It's carrying its own weight. But if it freezes a medium item, one slot on your board is stalling two on theirs, or even three if you get a large item. So then also we got the flame signal. I wasn't sure whether to put it on the left here or just leave it where it is. I mean, the argument there is the hotspot would be stacking the 5 additional burn on the weather glass versus the haste specifically hitting the weather glass. Right now, the haste is going to either hit the lighter or the weather glass. But I felt like for the earlier stages of the game, the higher burn from the weather glass going off was better, and also it's not needed to be going off as fast. You know, the earlier in the game, although you do want to be as quick as possible, you can kind of afford to be slower. Whereas later in the game, you absolutely can't. You need to go off as fast as possible. Another great add was the invigorating cold skill. This synergizes insanely well with icicle because when you freeze, this hastes 2 of your items for 2 seconds, so you just starts your board off really fast. Um, So that was the big day 6. Day 6 is here. You can kind of tell was a big addition to the power of the board. Where some days aren't like that, right? Like going from day 6 to day 7 here. In day 7, I only upgraded the weather glass and the invigorating cold. Now, I guess when you say it out loud, that's actually huge, right? Because this weather glass is the primary DPS of your build, and the invigorating cold is just generating more startup for you. So it's quite good. Even though it looks like the day didn't go, amazing, you're increasing your power significantly just by making your engine go off faster. So day 8, this was interesting. The dragon was the PvE encounter I chose, and I was able to get the dragon heart from it. Now this makes it so that when it goes off, it doubles the burn of one of your items, and every time you burn, it charges this. So I mean, it has like an 11-second cooldown. But I felt like with weather glass, since it's going off 5 times, it charges this 10 seconds. So basically, every time the weather glass goes off, this will double the burn of an item. Now, doubling burn is extremely strong, especially here on day 8, where the 11-second timer isn't as detrimental as it might be later on in the game. So, getting rid of the vents for the Dragonheart seems like a no-brainer. Vents is a great item, but the 7-second cast really starts to fall off. Whereas this is going to go off in like 6 seconds, which is, I guess the vents would be doing 42 burn, but this can effectively do way more than that just by doubling these items. Now, it is worth noting that the Dragonheart could hit either the lighter, the weather glass, or the signal flame. So I was thinking like, okay, let me get rid of the signal flame at some point. So the next day was actually really big. The level up from 10 gave a fiery enchant, and so fiery enchant on the weather glass is already insanely strong, but when you can double a double, it turns into a quadruple. So that's, you're scaling incredibly hard with that. The icicles, I took a random enchant on and I got obsidian. There are a couple good enchants on this, like haste would have been amazing and slow would have been really good. Um, Poison even, because then I could have dropped the catfish. But you'll take the obsidian. I had some XP to be able to afford the Next day here, we were able to drop the signal flame for the rowboat. I wanted the weather glass to cast quicker, and charging with the rowboat is a really easy way to do that. Now, the also benefit of that is that the Dragonheart won't hit the signal flame. It'll hit the lighter or the weather glass, and I'm ideally hoping it hits the weather glass, but I didn't really want to drop the lighter to ensure that. I felt as though the additional multicast was still pretty good at this point of the game. Plus, I didn't have anything else in my stash that I wanted to add in. I did misplay. I should have put the Dragonheart next to the rowboat. This catfish going off doesn't really do anything, so the Dragonheart being over here would have been ideal. And I got a couple skills from PvE and level up, and they both are effectively irrelevant. So I ended up losing this fight, which is the only fight I lost. But the next day, on day 11, we get up to level 13, so we get our targeted level up, which I threw on the rowboat so that I could charge the weather glass. Now, again, it just needed to be on the Dragonheart because then we would get even more doubles. Um, but this last day, I kind of felt insanely strong already, so I took some additional XP in the events just in case, we were to lose. But that's it for this demonstration. I just wanted to kind of cover it in a quick way with just kind of talking through some of my thought processes. I'll post the full video of it just in case you want to see how I navigated through the days, but I'm not going to speak over on that. I just wanted to get all my thoughts out in this quick little format. Also, just let me know if you like the style of content. I mean, if going through the PowerPoint was kind of cool, please let me know. If you really need the visuals, or maybe you want to see the fights, or possibly like the end of round damage done by each of these items. Um, I'm just kind of interested in seeing if this is something people would enjoy. So please let me know, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.